Hey, I want to take a moment to tell you about Anchor. I absolutely love Anchor, and it's the easiest way to make a podcast. That's why I use it. Let me explain. It's completely free, and there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and every other podcast platform out there. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Switch to Anchor and never pay a hosting fee again. What you need to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Welcome to the 99% Loco Podcast.
Hey, podcast family, I'm glad you're here this week, and if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We are at episode number 42 and keep rolling along. Speaking of being new to this podcast, each week I'm bringing stories of Nashville and Middle Tennessee-based entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, musicians, and other creators. We don't just talk about the boring stuff of what happens between 9 and 5. Everybody has a story, their own unique upbringing, and a passion for why they're doing what they're doing. I personally love the sense of community around Nashville and get my kicks from sharing these stories. This week's guest is Paul Schmitz. Paul and his wife Rhonda launched an organization called ShowerUp in the fall of 2016, with Paul leaving a 30-plus year in radio to serve ShowerUp full-time. When the idea of a mobile shower unit for the homeless first came to Paul and his wife's minds, they wondered if it was even possible. Their family spent years working with the homeless, mostly providing meals, clothing, sleeping bags, and backpacks. In Nashville, like most other cities across the country, there are resources for the homeless to get meals, clothing, and other necessities, but Paul discovered that there were very few places to get a hot shower and take care of basic hygiene. We talk more about those statistics in the episode, but ultimately, that is part of the reason why ShowerUp exists. ShowerUp partners and supports many organizations around Nashville that serve the poor and the homeless and believe that together, ShowerUp can come alongside, provide unique service, and help our friends and neighbors know that they are loved. I'm so glad Paul was willing to come on and share his story and what he's doing with ShowerUp. I actually heard about ShowerUp back in 2018 when my family and I first moved to the Nashville area, and have been following what they've been doing ever since. Paul even lives right down the road from me, but due to busy schedules and the whole COVID thing, we jumped on the virtual phone to make this happen. So let's not wait any longer. Here is my conversation with Paul Schmitz, the co-founder and executive director of the organization ShowerUp. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy right now, especially with the whole COVID thing. I think a lot of alternative facilities and things have been shut down in Nashville. And, even going back further, I think prior to the whole COVID thing, when the tornado hit, you got increasingly busy. So yeah. I'd imagine you're super tired as well, but I think you'd probably agree the mission of this is greater than the tiredness. So
absolutely. Yeah, there's no question. And I will say that we actually just got back from a week's vacation. We had a friend who loves what we do, and he just happens to have a house in Florida. And so he said, hey, go to Florida for a week on me. And so we stayed at his house, and I did nothing for a week, and it was wonderful. So we pushed pretty hard for 3 or 4 months, got a nice week, and now we're hitting it hard again.
Yeah, so we're obviously going to dig deeper into everything you're doing with ShowerUp, but at a high level, can you just tell me, for listeners' purpose, what ShowerUp is and what your overall mission is?
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking me. ShowerUp is a mobile shower service that we provide for those who are experiencing homelessness. What we have discovered through years of working with those who are living on the street is there's a huge need for things like food and clothing and water and things like that. One of the things that a lot of people just don't think about is the lack of shower facilities that are available. And when we started doing some research and realized that there was a need, that's kind of how ShowerUp started. And so we provide showers, personal care, hygiene items, socks and underwear for those who are in need.
Yeah. So like I said, we're going to dig a lot deeper into that and share your story a little bit. But let's go way back and kind of talk about your roots and where you actually came from, because I don't believe you're native to Tennessee.
Nobody is. There is a transplant factor involved. I actually grew up in central Illinois, and I lived most of my life in central and south central Illinois. Moved to Wichita, Kansas in the early 2000s. And that's where I met my wife, and that's where we really started doing our work with the homeless community there. I had read a book called Not a Fan by Kyle Idleman, and I also read a book called Crazy Love by Francis Chan. Those two books kind of wrecked my life. Things were going really, really nicely. I was playing a lot of golf. I had most of my, my weekends free. And you read those books and you kind of go, wait a minute. They challenged me to do something a little bit more with my life and to move in a different direction. So we moved here in 2013, I want to say. Yeah, it's been about 7 years we've been here in Nashville. And we love it here. So this has become home, even though we're not native. This really has become home.
Yeah. So going back to your roots in Illinois, I believe you actually were involved in radio, right?
I've had about a 35-year career in radio. Started in Illinois when I was in high school, and that's what took me to Kansas, and that's actually what brought me to Tennessee. And so that was a wonderful journey. I did basically everything you can do in radio over those 35 years.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in north central Illinois, more closer to Chicago, Kankakee actually. Mm-hmm. And my wife is actually from Jacksonville, Illinois.
Oh yeah.
Which isn't that far from I think you mentioned Peoria area. Is that?
Yeah, and actually I worked at a radio station that had a signal in Jacksonville, Illinois. It's very possible that she would have listened to me on the radio.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So what got you originally involved with, wanting to make a difference in the homeless communities?
Well, it really became one of these things when I read Crazy Love and Not a Fan, again, two books that I just encourage everyone to read. It occurred to me that I had gone my whole life as a Christian thinking that I didn't have to care about serving the poor or serving those in need if it wasn't, my gift mix, or it wasn't my calling or my burden. And what those books kind of did for me was got me reading the Bible again about what Jesus said about serving the poor, and it became one of those realizations that for me, at least, as a person of faith, I had to look at that and go, okay, this really isn't an option. And God began to change my heart. If I'm honest, it wasn't something that I did or created. It was something that God did within me. And at that point, then I just said to my wife, I think we need to start taking some meals downtown. At the time, we were living in Wichita, Kansas. And I said, take some meals downtown and maybe give them to some guys who are on the street. And that was how it began for us, was just driving around with some sack lunches and, handing them out of our minivan window as we're driving around and trying to be a blessing to some people.
Yeah. So did the ShowerUp concept or idea come to you once you were in Nashville, or is that something you were doing when you were still in Wichita?
ShowerUp actually hit about 4 years ago when we were here in Nashville. We've been serving the homeless community in Wichita for a couple of years, and actually started an organization there called People Loving Wichita. Now, that's not significant, except when we came to Nashville, we found a group called People Loving Nashville. Didn't know there was one. And so it was kind of a weird coincidence. Turns out the guy who started it and was running it was someone that I knew. through the radio industry. And so we became friends, started working together. We started serving alongside them. And that's kind of when we realized, hey, there's a need here. And the need became, pretty obvious that people wanted to get jobs. They wanted to, advance in their lives. But especially here in Nashville, we have a huge hospitality industry, and this is great. But if you can't be clean and have good hygiene, you really can't work in that industry. And so it became really obvious that something like that was needed.
Let's talk about Nashville a little bit as far as the homeless problem here. And, I don't know if you know right off, but what are some of the stats or numbers of homelessness? And then, what other types of services are actually available?
Well, Nashville is pretty unique in that, according to a survey that went out about 3 years ago, Nashville is the worst city in America for chronic homelessness. By chronic, that's basically over a year and exacerbated by things that like physical or mental or emotional disabilities and issues that people are dealing with. 2 out of 5, so that's 40% of our folks who are experiencing homelessness are chronically homeless, and that's pretty staggering. When you look at the numbers of people that are homeless in Nashville, it depends on who you ask because the numbers change, and there's all kinds of ways to define homelessness. So we typically think of someone who's on the street or living in a tent or sleeping in a doorway as being homeless. But there are literally thousands of people who sleep in their cars, who are couch surfing, who are without a permanent residence, and they're kind of living off of friends and coworkers and just the kindness of strangers. Those numbers are anywhere from 10 to 20,000 people in Nashville. It's pretty staggering.
Oh,
and
wow.
At any given time in the winter, there's going to be about 5,000 people who are being subjected to the elements. And there are resources available. So there are meals that happen every so often. There are some folks who provide clothing. There are mental health resources that are available, things like that. But as far as when we started, there were about 5,000 to 6,000 men, women, and children who were homeless, and there were less than a dozen shower heads available to them. Not shower locations, not a dozen shower locations, a dozen shower heads. So that broke down to about 3 or 4 locations, and it just depended on if you could be there at the right time and if they had room for you. If you could get in, then you might get a shower that day. We wanted to change that.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about the units and the equipment you have because it's pretty cool. I've seen them. I've seen you guys at different events like around the Williamson County area specifically, and you let people take a look at your showers and whatnot. But so what was behind that? I'm sure right from the get-go you probably didn't have these really efficient units you have now.
Well, the initial launch was really interesting, and it was almost 4 years ago when we had the idea and said, okay, we want to try to do this. We started doing our research. Then we started raising money, and the first thing we thought was, what if we could convert a box truck, take a box truck and put showers in it, and then drive it around and make it available for people? Well, we raised the money and bought a box truck. Well, you just can't buy a box truck that has showers in it. You've got to have it converted. It's got to be retrofitted. So I thought, okay, who can we have do this? Who knows? Heating, plumbing, air conditioning, electrical, all that sort of thing, design, engineering. And the only company I could think of at the time was Lee Company. And of course, here in Middle Tennessee, everyone knows Lee Company. And now, of course, Bill Lee's our governor. So, right. It was one of those things that I thought, okay, Lee Company would be ideal. I don't know anybody at Lee Company, but a friend of mine does. So I contacted a friend of mine. He said, yeah, I'll get you an appointment maybe with the guy. I'll connect you. I said, great. So we make the appointment. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm getting my stuff together, getting ready for the appointment. I go in, and I meet with one of their senior vice presidents. It was great. He was open and willing. In fact, within the first few minutes of me just laying out my pitch, he said, "Paul, we're in. We're going to give you a great deal. We'd love to do it. Love to be a part of this." I'm like, "Fantastic. Great." So here we have, a box truck. We're going to get it retrofitted by Lee Company, and it's not going to cost us very much money. Just fantastic. And I'm jumping up and down. Well, he says, "Paul, wait a second. I got to tell you something." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, you made this appointment a couple of weeks ago, right?" I said, "Yeah." "Paul, a couple of days ago, another senior vice president came down the hall, came to my office, and he said, 'Hey, I had this weird dream last night. I dreamt that Lee Company got a box truck and that we put showers in it to take it downtown and give showers for homeless people. What do you think of that idea?'" And he's telling me this, and he goes, "Paul," because I looked at him and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but I'm meeting with a guy who wants our help to do that very thing." And Chris, I made him tell me the story twice because I wasn't sure that I was, hearing what I was hearing. But that's how we started. And so that was the initial prototype, was a box truck that was converted. We have since gone to a trailer that has shower suites in it. And so we pull that with tow vehicles. So we've gone now to a trailer model because I've got a company that can actually turn these around pretty quickly for us.
I want to take a moment and take you back to episode number 18 of this podcast, which featured Chef Carla Peluso. Carla has become a good friend of mine, and I'm excited to tell you about Burrino Italian Southern Eatery in Columbia, Tennessee, in which Carla is the executive chef and co-owner along with Paul Burrino. This place is a true tale of two Italians and was created out of a desire to bring a fresh approach to their favorite cuisines, combining two great comfort foods, Italian and Southern. Let me tell you, this is the real deal, and I'm not just saying that because Carla's a friend of mine. You have to check it out for yourself. Burrino is open for walk-ins and reservations, which they'd highly recommend. My wife and I were there at 5 p.m. on a Friday, and that place was packed. Burrino will soon be doing online ordering, classes, and catering. And on a personal note, I would highly recommend ordering the large meatball as a starter. You won't regret it. Burrino Italian Southern Eatery is located at 1018 South Garden Street in Columbia, Tennessee, and you can find out more about them or make a reservation for this weekend at burrinoitalian.com. Yeah, well, that's awesome. So kind of walk me through, what's your process? Because I know you go to several different locations. You have some scheduled locations you go throughout the week. Seems like you're always adding new locations, which is great. So, kind of walk me through that. What goes into the planning for those and then the coordination once you're actually on site?
Sure. A lot of what happens is driven by our partnership with other organizations. We believe in partnership. It's one of those things that I think drives what we do. It's a core value of ours. And so we partner with groups like the Bridge Ministry, which is pretty well known in Nashville. And we have a team that will take one of our mobile shower units out alongside the Bridge Ministry. In fact, I'll be doing that here in just a few hours with those folks. And we also work with People Loving Nashville, the group that I talked about earlier. And we'll go out on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays in Nashville. We have a team that will take one of our trucks to Madison on Monday nights, another team that takes a truck on Friday mornings to Clarksville, and then another team that will take one of our vehicles to Lebanon, Wilson County, on Friday afternoons. And we've expanded to Huntsville, Alabama, and things like that. When we show up, we basically will bring, 1, 2, maybe 3 of our mobile shower units, and then we'll set up, connect to water, and basically start providing showers. Each of our mobile shower units has 3 shower suites in it. So it has a shower, has a sink, has a mirror, bench, place to hang clothes, room to change. They're air conditioned, they're comfortable, they're clean. In fact, we clean before each individual goes into the shower. It's something that we consider to be an act of love. Right now, it's an act of hygiene. It's one of those things that we do because of COVID, but we started doing it because it really is an act of love. It shows worth and value to the people that we are able to serve. And as we do the showers, we'll provide everything someone needs. The other thing that I always tell people is that our shower suites have doors that lock. And when you're part of the homeless population, one of the things that you kind of forget about is privacy. There just is no privacy. So to have a door that you can go behind and that you can actually lock, and that is your space for the time that you're in it, that is pretty special, pretty meaningful. And we keep everything clean. We provide everything that people need: towels, shower kits, socks, underwear, and any hygiene items that are needed. We provide all of that so that no one has to worry about that.
Yeah. So one of the cool things I saw is that I think you're partnering with I don't know if they're an organization or company, but called the Laundry Stop.
Yeah.
And that's just genius. So what are they doing? Are they actually just doing laundry while they're there to, get groomed and take showers? And
yeah, it's been funny. We kind of see that there's a domino effect. We started working with People Loving Nashville doing meals and clothing. And because of that, then ShowerUp was kind of born. And when ShowerUp started coming out alongside People Loving Nashville and other groups, someone came up with the idea to come out and do haircuts. Well, that was brilliant. And so because of that, the Nashville Street Barbers was born.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So there's now Nashville's best barbers are cutting hair for free on the streets of Nashville. It's awesome. And then about a year and a half ago, a Franklin family came to us and said, "Hey, we've got this idea about doing a mobile laundry trailer for our business, but wondered if there might be an application for the homeless community." And I said, "You're not going to believe this." Again, one of those stories that you kind of go, this is just divinely providential. I had been kicking around the idea, and I had sort of figured out, okay, if we were going to do a mobile laundry truck or trailer, I think I have some ideas. I think I know how we can do it. So they came to me and said, "What do you think about the idea?" I said, "Great. Here's what I've come up with. Take that, run with it." They added some stuff that I didn't even expect. They found some units, some technology that can take cold water and sanitize it. So they can wash clothes with cold water and have the clothing and the water sanitized. Brilliant. They didn't need to heat the water. They didn't need to go to all that extra work. They can use it all with cold water. So they come out with us on Sundays and sometimes other days during the week as well. And they'll do laundry for our friends who are living on the street. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And like I said, it's genius. I mean, it's kind of all in one service for these people on the streets.
Well, the idea is that, if we can serve people in this way, maybe we can help people find some hope, find something that says to them, if I've got clean clothes, if I'm clean myself, if I feel good about how I present myself, maybe I can go to that job interview this week. And that's what we're seeing happen. A lot of guys are getting jobs, and it's really very cool.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, you have a lot of kind of many testimonials and things on social media, but I mean, are there any particular stories that you have in your mind that are just, remarkable, or just, an example of, someone's life that specifically was turned around just by these services?
Yeah, I mean, one guy in particular, and we met him 2 years ago. His name was James, and James started coming to us. He was brand new, and the first day he came, he was amazed that he could get a shower. He was living on the street. In fact, he didn't have even a tent. He had a buddy who had a car, and he was sleeping in the car. So he didn't even have his own camp or anything like that. And he came to us, and we got his story, and he had just been released from incarceration. And, we try not to dig too deep. We want the conversation to happen organically. Oftentimes when you have a conversation, the first thing you want to say is, "So how did you become homeless?" Well,
right.
That's kind of rude. So even though it's the thing you want to know most. So we don't do that. But as he was talking, he shared with us that he had been in prison for 30 years and 8 months. He had spent over half of his life in prison. And he showed up on the streets after just getting out. He had nothing. And he would come and get showers. He found a job after a couple of weeks. And he was always so gracious. He was always so kind. He would say, "Thank you for being here. You guys have no idea how much this means." And then he would say things like, there's really no excuse for anyone to not be clean. And he made a point to make sure that he would come after work, that he would come whenever we were out. And we saw James usually a couple of times a week. He was working really hard. He was working overtime, saving his money. And he told us one day, he said, "I've got almost enough money to get a truck and to get a place to live." And we were so excited. Well, the next week he came and he said, "So I got robbed. And the guy whose car I was staying in took everything that I had, took all my money, took everything." He says, "I'm starting from zero." And we were just devastated. And it was a reminder to us that progress is often a very twisted, confusing line. It is very seldom a straight line. So we saw him for a few more weeks, and then James stopped coming. And it started getting, into the fall, and we were wondering what happened to him. And one day he shows up, week before Thanksgiving, and we're like, "James, where you been?" He goes, "I was working overtime, and I made enough money. I got myself a place." We're like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" And we said, "Do you need a shower?" He goes, "No, I don't need a shower. I just want to come down and say the good news." We said, "That's fantastic." So we celebrated with him. Well, the next week he showed up on Thanksgiving, and we're like, "James, everything okay? You doing well?" He goes, "Yeah. I just came to volunteer."
Oh, man.
Right. So James is now living. He's outside of Nashville, and we haven't seen him in months and months, and that's a good thing because he doesn't need us anymore.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, it's a good one. He was a good guy. I miss him.
Yeah. What's the to go along with that? What's the whole concept behind this Simply Human? I guess the mission of Simply Human and these shirts that you have on your website.
Yeah, thank you for asking about that. Simply Human was something that started really a couple of years ago when. I tell people that we don't do clothing. There are other groups that specialize in clothing. They do a great job with it. We do, however, do socks and underwear. But often, some of the folks will come to us and they'll say, "Hey, do you have a T-shirt that I can have?" And we wanted there to be a T-shirt that we could give to people that would not say "shower up," because walking around the streets, with a shirt that says "shower up," I mean, that's sure that promotes us and all that, but who needs that? But I did want a shirt that said something that would connect our friends who are on the streets with each other and with those of us who serve them, and also with kind of just the general population, so that they could walk down the street and have a shirt that said something that was meaningful to everybody and created some kind of community. And we came up with the idea of, what if we had a shirt that just said "Simply Human," period. And that's how Simply Human was born. So Simply Human is a shirt that we came up with. It's a very basic concept. You buy one, we give one. And so they're on our website. And so if you buy a Simply Human shirt, we're going to give one to one of our friends who needs one. And we purposefully found a shirt that was durable, that was breathable, that was moisture wicking, because I've been in Nashville long enough to understand what humidity is, and so that's important in the summertime. And so we found a good shirt, and so that's what we provide for people, and it's something that we're pretty pleased with, and we're excited about, and I hope that people will take advantage of it, because if we're all walking down the street wearing a shirt that communicates something like "Simply Human," then all of a sudden you don't have any labels like, homeless, not homeless, rich, poor, doing well, broken. You don't have all those labels. And all of a sudden we become just a community of people who are simply human.
That is an awesome idea. I mean, do you know, as far as numbers, how many of these shirts you've been able to give out?
So far, we have given out over 50 of these shirts. And we launched this about 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Oh, awesome. So relatively recent. So yeah, definitely. I'll help promote that too on social media. So
Thank you.
That's an awesome idea. And as we get close to wrapping up here, I do want to talk about other ways that people can get involved, the volunteer and partnership with ShowerUp. But so is your family involved? I know you have some semi-younger kids, right? I mean, are they all involved in this too?
Yeah, this is a family thing. My wife and I are very involved, and we have 3 younger daughters. And our girls have always been with us. Now we have some older kids too, who are actually, kind of doing their own thing and living life. But our younger kids, they have been with us on the streets from day one since they were very little. And we designed ShowerUp so that when you take out one of our mobile shower units, and I tell volunteers this too, I don't have to be the one to do it. You don't need any special license. If you can drive a truck and pull a U-Haul trailer, then you can handle taking care of a ShowerUp mobile shower unit. We designed this so that, honestly, me and my 3 daughters could do an event. So set up, making sure that we clean the showers, making sure that we're handing out the shower kits and towels, and making sure that people get, what they need. We can do this as a family, which then translates into, if you want to volunteer with us, we have easy on-ramps to volunteering. It's not difficult. You don't need any experience, and you don't need any special licensing or training. We can handle it all right there when you show up.
Well, that's awesome. So how would someone go about if they were interested, if they're hearing this and they want to volunteer? Because I'm sure there's some kind of stipulations now with the whole COVID thing and whatnot, but can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, we do recommend that if you want to volunteer, go to our website, showerup.org, and you can choose kind of where you want to serve at and how you want to help, because we have different locations and different days and times throughout the week. With COVID, we do recommend that you wear a mask. Now, because we are outside and because we are able to exercise some level of social distancing, that still fits within the parameters of being able to assemble. But I do recommend wearing a mask, partly because it's just recommended by everyone who's smarter than me, and also because we're serving with a vulnerable population. And I don't want to be responsible for, if I'm carrying COVID, I don't want to be responsible for transferring it, and vice versa. So I want to make sure that we're protecting our friends and that we're protecting ourselves as well. So we do recommend that. We provide hand sanitizer. We've got gloves if those are requested. But yeah, we'd love to have anyone volunteer. And we even take volunteers of kids, teenagers, almost any age.
So if a family wanted to come out and help out, they could all sign up to volunteer and take part.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So being a nonprofit organization, and I know this answer, but can you kind of talk about the importance of what support and generosity means to you guys? Because I know you thrive on monetary support and donations, and that's a big part of keeping you afloat.
It really is. In fact, we have been very blessed. The Nashville Predators Foundation donated a truck to us last fall. And that was a great gift. And we have another business in town that's, in fact, it's the Russell Hotel, donated our 4th mobile shower unit. And that's wonderful. Those are pretty unique, larger donations and gifts. A lot of what keeps us moving forward and rolling is the donations of people just like you and me, people who support ShowerUp at a monthly level or a single gift of support. So even though we do have some businesses, some foundation support and things like that, we really are driven by just people who say, I like what you're doing and I want to help in some way. And this is a way that they can be involved and partner with making a real impact in lives like James, who I talked about a few minutes ago. His life's radically changed, and ShowerUp had a part in that. He did the heavy lifting, but we were there to help make sure that he had a hand up and the support that he needed. So we appreciate friends who decide to donate to us.
Yeah. So speaking of finding out more about ShowerUp and how they can volunteer and donate to you, how can listeners find out more about ShowerUp online?
Our website is showerup.org. And there's all the information there on volunteering and donating. If you want to see some of the stories and read some of the amazing stories of lives that are touched and impacted, and see pictures of some of the people that we serve, our social media is a great place to start. And we're on Instagram and Facebook, obviously, and just pull up ShowerUp.
Well, thanks a lot, Paul. This has been really great. Like I said, I've followed what you guys are doing for years, and I'm glad I'm able to share what you're doing on this platform.
Well, Chris, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate you taking this time and letting us be a part of something that is so distinctly Nashville. So thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed the episode. And as always, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can always email me at 99percentlocalpod@gmail.com. Or you can actually drop by the contact page on the website and send a voice message that may appear in a future episode. Speaking of the website, you can find it at 99percentlocalpod.com. And while you're there, make sure you catch up on any and all past episodes. If you'd like to support the show, you can do it in a few different ways. Please follow the podcast on Instagram or Facebook at 99percentlocalpod. Leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. The best thing you can possibly do is share this podcast with your friends who might want to check it out. Lastly, would you consider contributing to this podcast on a one-time or ongoing basis? All contributions that I receive, 10% of that goes to the Well Outreach in Spring Hill, Tennessee. And until next week, stay safe and be kind to those around you.